designed by the faculty. The institute must be ready with all kind of resources that help the faculty to integrate the technology in teaching learning. And at the end, what are the different expectations of your stakeholders? So by considering the level of comfort of your stakeholders also, it is possible for the teacher to create a blended learning environment at institute level. So when I said blended learning environment, our major objective in a blended learning environment is to engage the students in the process of learning. So that is why I'm integrating technology by considering the demands of my students. I'm integrating technology by the use of which it is possible for me to provide flexibility at the path of the learner so that they are able to understand that content matter. I am not only providing them new information in a class, but when the students are with me in a class, they are able to process that amount of information. In the last session, it is clear to all of you that in a flipped classroom like environment, when the teacher is using flipped mode of teaching, it is possible for the student to perform certain activities while sitting into a class. But that is not happening in a one day. It is not possible for the student to accustom to that kind of teaching. It is the teacher who is going to create that kind of an environment for a student. Say, for example, if I give notes or reference material to my student and ask my student to prepare for a class where I'm just going to handle the clarification or where just I'm going to give you an assignments or activity, it is not possible for my student to go through the details of the content until and unless the teacher is not able to provide personalized instructions in that particular content. So when I said I'm going to provide notes to my student, I'm going to provide reference material to my student, at that particular case, the teacher need to consider that what kind of teaching need to be there in my class, what kind of direction I need to plan for my students, so that it is easy for them to accustom to that particular environment. As Lies Schulman said, after some 30 years of analyzing teaching, I have concluded that classroom teaching is perhaps the most complex, most challenging, most demanding, subtle, nonsense, and frightening activity that our species has ever invented. From this particular statement, it is clear to all of us that classroom teaching is not an easy thing to do. As per the literature, there are approximately 101 teaching methodologies available with all of us. I can use think, pair, share, I can use numbered head together, I can use problem-based learning, I can use project-based learning. But for whom I'm selecting these teaching methodology, I'm selecting it for my student, I'm selecting it for my subject, I'm selecting it by considering the kind of resources I have at my institute level. And most excuse me. And most importantly, when I said I am teaching to my student, it means as a teacher, I'm going to define my own methodology by the use of which it is possible for me to handle all the students who are sitting into my class. I need to consider the diversity of my student. I need to consider the intelligence level that is available in my class. Maybe one student in my class is creative enough. That student try to clarify the doubts, try to clarify some of the things related to the subject matter, but maybe as a faculty, I'm not ready with that particular content. When I said student aptitude level is very high, student intelligence level is very unique, student is creative enough, student is ready to perform number of activities, and in this particular age, in 21st century, when the information is available with the student on number of platforms, sometimes as a faculty in a classroom situation, it is very common for all of us to face these kind of challenges. Maybe my students are more prepared for that kind of information as compared to me. So when we said a flipped classroom or a blended classroom and we are integrating technology, we are providing instructions to our students. So when I'm saying that I'm blending synchronous or asynchronous learning and I'm using different teaching methodology and information is available with my student, it means as a teacher, I need to prepare first. There must be an advanced information related to that particular subject that need to be available with me, only then it is possible for me to challenge the different assumptions of my students, the assumptions that my students are carrying with themselves in a classes. Maybe my learning style is whenever I go for a session or whenever I go for a class, I first prepare for that particular content. And when the faculty is deliberating upon that content, discussing the content with all of us, there are number of questions that are in my mind, and I'm ready to clarify my doubts with that particular faculty with his or her due permission. Sometimes the faculty member said that, yes, this particular information is not available with me. Give me some time. I will provide you the detailed information about that particular content. The purpose of this particular discussion is, as a teacher, we need to understand that there is a changing dimension of teaching that we are facing right now. The first change in dimension is the change in the role of the teacher. Earlier, for a student, the information provider is a teacher. Maybe there are 2 or 3 different textbooks available for that particular subject that we consider as a reference material for that course. My teacher providing me notes in a classroom environment also, and that is a source of information for me as far as a subject is concerned. But nowadays, say for example, at institute level, there are 6 different subjects offered to a student in a particular semester. And for those particular SIP subject, maybe student identify that yes, 1 or 2 MOOC courses are available for these subject. Along with the classroom teaching, the students start referring to that MOOC course. The information that is being provided by the faculty in a classroom lecture is compared with the information provided by the another faculty in that MOOC course. The students are able to analyze information. The students are able to compare the quality of the content that is produced by the 2 different faculty. It means as a teacher, when I go to a class, I must be ready with all kind of information. First, I need to map the subject with any another kind of or a similar kind of a content that is available online for my students. So maybe I skip 1 or 2 lectures of my content and I simply provided videos to my lecture or recorded session to my lecture to go for to the students to go through the details, and then in a classroom session there will be a discussion only. So as a teacher, my role is not only to provide information to the student. As a teacher in this particular century, when we talk about blended learning, flipped learning, or other cooperative and collaborative learning strategy, my role is to facilitate the process of learning by identifying the number of resources available as far as the content information is concerned. There is a change in a physical space also. So when I said there is a change in a physical space, and today we are going to discuss about cooperative and collaborative strategy, where most of the activities will call for the sitting arrangement in teams and group. It means as a teacher, I need to consider that what kind of learning spaces need to be there. I want to show you some of the learning spaces that have been created by some universities to promote cooperative and collaborative learning strategy. I hope this PDF is available with all of you. Yes, on your screen is the PDF available with all of you.
Yes, ma'am, I can see.
Thank you very much. So in this particular PDF, I will show you some of the spaces that have been created word around as far as the creation and use of the cooperative and collaborative learning strategies are concerned. The first image displayed on your screen is, let me increase the size of this. The first image on your screen is an active learning space that is being created by in a university of USA. Now see the sitting arrangement, the kind of tables that have been provided to the student. This class is used for the group-based activity. So they said that the design simplicity and flexibility have proved extremely popular with the user. It means in a North Carolina State University, they have designed an active student-centered active learning classroom where it is possible for the student to be in groups and interact about any content that is being given by the student. And These new spaces, they have specifically designed for the first year physics program. So this is one example of an active learning classrooms. Another example is for in the same university, they have provided an group-based classroom arrangement for the student, where all kind of technology facility is available with the student free to use. On the table, you are able to see that there are laptops lying with an internet connectivity, and there is in a center, there is a place for the faculty to be there all the time. And in a group, the students can interact with each other, and they are able to interact with the outer world also by the use of the technology facility provided to all the students. So another thing, in Vienna State University, these are the classes where the students are performing a group-based activity by using technology and with the help of a flexible structure, sitting structure that is provided to the students. So this is a classroom where the teacher is organizing group-based and team-based activities for the student, and students are involved themselves in that particular activity. Another is the students are performing a group-based activity, but with the help of a projector screen, it is possible for the student to know that what the other groups are doing at that time. So whatever discussion that is being carried out by this particular group of the student, the information is shared simultaneously with the other groups also. So student have ideas, student have number of creative things to do when they are performing problem solving activities while sitting into a group or in teams. So these are some of the examples from the Comba Active Learning Studio. So many of the global universities, or even in India, there are many good private universities that are able to create such kind of learning spaces for the students. So when we said there is a change in a physical space, maybe I'm not going to organize a class in my traditional classroom setup. Nowadays, when we said a physical space, we are not using the term classroom. When we are talking about the advanced teaching strategies, cooperative, collaborative, blended, or flipped classroom, it is not a classroom that is considered as a physical space for the students to sit together and listen to the faculty, because these kind of technology, these kind of teaching method help the student to have more flexibility, help the student to interact with their peers more. Any space can be a physical space. This is how the institute need to decide. Maybe a cafeteria of your institute, maybe the library facility of your institute become a learning space or a physical space for a student, where the student can able to listen to the lectures provided by the faculty. It is possible for the student to be in a cafeteria and perform certain activities while drinking a mug of coffee. So physical spaces are also going to be changed if we are able to integrate these kind of teaching aids in our teaching learning activities. When I said a flipped classroom, so flipped classroom is not like that today I'm giving a topic to my student and tomorrow in the first class I'm going to discuss or clarify the doubts of my student. I need to give time to my student to go through that particular content. So maybe in a week, only 1 or 2 times I'm creating an interaction with my student. Rest of the time, my students are performing certain activities. Rest of the time, my students will use their personal time as per their choice to go through that particular content. So the second thing that we need to understand is there is a change in a physical space. Then use of technology. That issue we have discussed in our yesterday class also. So when we said technology, the technology must be freely available with the student. The flexibility need to be given to the student. So whatever teaching technology, whatever technology we are using in our teaching learning activities, that technology need to be diverse enough, and that technology need to be available with our student population also. Only then as a faculty I can say that it is possible for me to integrate technology. At your own end, when you are using different technological platform, you are preparing some of the teaching aids for your student by the using of technology. But if the flexibility is not provided to the student to use that technology at his or her own end, you are using technology just for teaching purposes. You are not integrating technology for teaching learning activities. So have resources, use resources as a part of faculty is a different thing. When you said you are integrating technology, it means your students are able to use that platform in an efficient manner. Only then we can say, or only then we can journalize that at our university or at our institute, it is possible for us to integrate technology. Another thing that we need to understand is the impact of digital media. Impact of digital media means the information is going to be transferred from one end to another within no time. So when I'm interacting with my student or when I'm passing any instruction to my student, I need to keep in my mind that this particular information may be transferred to the 1,000 different students available in an university. When I said the information is available online, LMS facility is being created by you. Maybe a student of some another university have ID and password of XYZ student, and that student is also able to access your LMS facility. So this is the impact of a digital media. That is why it is being said the content need to be tailor-made for your student, and at your institute level, there must be a policy in terms of uses of that particular technology that also need to be considered by the management of that institute, and then demands of the stakeholder. So when we are evaluating the impact of technology in various teaching learning activities, only then we come to know that what is the impact of that technology on my student population. And if the impact is positive, I can simply go by the use of that particular technology. But if there is no major impact on student achievement, then at institute level, we need to evaluate that whether we need to continue with this kind of a thing or we need to make another plan for our students. So demand of the stakeholder need to be evaluated on a periodic basis. Only then it is possible for me to make my students comfortable in the process of learning. One experience for this particular situation is many of the faculty members in the yesterday class also, they said we prepare PowerPoint presentation and it will take maximum time to prepare for those slides. And what we are observing and what we are seeing in our student population, at the end of the semester, many of the students start demanding for those slides or PowerPoint presentation. PowerPoint presentation is just a teaching aid where the teacher is providing key highlights of that particular content. Rest of the information is verbally explained by the faculty. But many of the students refer those PowerPoint presentation, prepare the content for their examination, and reproduce the information that is available on that PowerPoint presentation. It means the students are ignoring the verbal explanation that is being developed by the faculty. So whenever I'm passing PowerPoint presentation to my student, there must be notes given to the students related to those PowerPoint presentation. Only then it is possible for the student to focus upon that particular content. Say, for example, at the end of this particular course, if I pass on this PowerPoint presentation to all of you, how many of you are able to remember the verbal explanation that is developed for this presentation? And up to what extent it is possible for us to remember information? Yes, any member can reply. Is it possible for you to remember all kind of verbal explanation or the content that is developed during the presentation of this particular course? No. So when we are giving or providing PowerPoint presentation to our student, there is a proper method that need to be utilized at institute level. Use of PowerPoint presentation doesn't mean to pass the slides to the student. Specifically for a student population, when I said I'm using PowerPoint presentation of teaching, it means your handouts, your instructional material need to be developed first. Along with that, the information provided to the student in terms of the slides or any presentation that you have prepared for your student. So these are some of the issues that we need to consider before planning the use of any instructional strategy for our student, keeping in view the kind of students, the level of students we have at our institute level. Another thing that we need to consider is what is our role as a teacher? What is our role as a faculty? And Benjamin Franklin once said, "Tell me I forgot, teach me I may remember, involve me I understand." It means Whenever I'm discussing something with my student, I'm providing any new information to my student, my main objective need to be my student must be involved in that process of learning. Albert Einstein said, any fool can know, the point is to understand. Means we need to develop understanding level of our student first. So I hope you all are aware about the Bloom's taxonomy. Yes, you know the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So for your information, these are the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. And Albert Einstein said, any fool can know, the point is to understand. So when I said understand, as per the Bloom's taxonomy, understanding is considered as a lower order ability that need to be developed among our student. But understanding is not only limited or restricted to the lower order ability. When I said student is able to create something, my student is able to analyze information, my student is able to apply something, it is only possible for the student if the level of understanding is already developed among the student. So the purpose of this particular discussion is, when I said my students are able to understand, if my students are able to understand the content, it is very easy for them to reproduce information. It is very easy for them to remember about that information. It is very easy for them to create something, because after analyzing information, after evaluating the information, my students are able to know about that particular content in an extensive detail, and then it is possible for them to create maybe a prototype model at institute level. Maybe my students are able to create a written report for a project because their level of understanding is already developed. So whenever we are providing and teaching environment in our institute, we need to consider that teaching is a combination of teacher and student activities. So in a last class also, during the discussion session, Dr. Sunil Dutt sir, in your class, you are a king. So when it comes to a classroom situation, the teacher is a person who is going to teach or who is going to facilitate the process of learning in a classroom environment. So it is the decision of the faculty that by what mean you are going to engage your student. So it is basically a combination of teacher and student activity. Your management may make policy to integrate technology, but up to what extent you are teaching technology in a class, it is up to you as a faculty. So whenever we are teaching to our student, we need to consider that what are the available resources with me, and with the use of those available resources, how it is possible for me to create an atmosphere where learning can take place. Say for example, I'm going to teach a subject of mathematics to my class student. So it may be I'm able to show a three-dimensional drawing to my student with the help of PowerPoint presentation, but nobody is going to stop me for the use of board in a class. So for a subject where step-by-step explanation is required at the part of the students are able to perform that activity. The students are able to understand that particular content only by based on the decision that is being made by the faculty. If as a teacher I consider that yes, for this particular content I'm going to use blackboard or whiteboard in my class, because this particular teaching aid will help my student to understand the content more as compared to the use of other kind of technology. Maybe when I'm teaching to my class student a subject of human resource management that is common for all the engineering branches, so I'm not going to provide a content information to my student because that information is already available in a textbook. That information is already available on an internet also. That is why most of the students are not engaged in that particular subject by the faculty, because teachers are repeating the information that is already available with them. So maybe for a topic of job recruitment or for a topic of a job selection, I provide case studies to my student that yes, these are the different recruitment processes or policies used by MNCs, used by the government sector or used by the small private organization. Now, complete that analysis and give me the conclusion that what can be the different recruitment policies, what can be the different recruitment processes that is happening all around us. So a case study method of teaching can be utilized by me. But who is going to decide that what teaching method or what teaching strategy I'm going to use? It is me as a faculty based on the type of the content. It is my decision that how I'm going to handle my class. If the management demand use of technology, I can simply permit my student to use their smartphone. I can simply permit my student to use the laptop facilities available in my class to analyze different cases related to the recruitment process and policies used by the different MNCs or different organizations world around. So I am integrating technology to look for the information, but at the same time, I'm designing activity where my student not only get information related to the basic aspects that is already provided in their textbook, but at the same time, students are able to know what is happening in various organizations and various MNCs. So it is a teacher who is going to create an atmosphere. It is the teacher who is going to facilitate the process of learning. So decision is yours that what teaching method or strategy you are going to use. Why as a teacher we need to make such kind of decisions? Because as a faculty, our objective is whatever we are teaching in our class, that must result into equivalent amount of learning. So teaching must result in an equivalent amount of learning. Whatever I'm teaching in my class, whatever activity I'm giving to my student, at the same time in class, there must be a continuous assessment at the part of the student. Only then I can say that yes, my teaching results into equivalent amount of learning. I'm not saying equal amount of learning. It is equivalent amount of learning because information is new to the student. It will take time of at the part of the student to understand about the whole information. But whatever understanding I'm able to develop in my class, that is essential enough for the student to go through that particular content in detail. So that need to be considered by the teacher. As per the principles of effective teaching in a literature, so these are the different principles I have extracted from the various research articles. All of them are talking about interaction or relationship of the teacher and the student. So as per the principle, they said encourage student-instructor contact. Effective teaching means encourage cooperation among students, encourage active learning. The teacher will give prompt feedback, emphasize time on task, communicate high expectations, and respect diverse talents and different ways of learning. So when they said effective teaching is only happened if the teacher is able to work on three different domains of education, that is cognitive domain, psychomotor domain, and affective domain. So as a teacher, I can not only work on the knowledge domain of my student, and I will left up to the student that how they need to behave in a specific situation. Maybe one or two students in my class created a very heated kind of an argument, and I cannot simply ignore these kind of situations in my class, because my purpose in my class is to modify the behavior of my learner. So there must be a good interpersonal relationship between all the students who are sitting in a class. The student need to know how to respond, how to behave in a specific situation. In a laboratory environment, my student need to follow all kind of safety precaution, that is the demand of that particular environment. In a classroom situation, when the group activity is assigned to the student, I expect that all the students are working for that particular activity. So there must be a cooperation that need to be created by the faculty. There must be an environment where students are engaged with the process of learning. So when I said I am able to engage my students in the process of learning, so my next question to all of you is it possible for you to engage all the students in a class? Maybe there are 60 students, maybe there are 80 students. So is it possible for you to engage all the students of your class on a regular basis? Are they ready to listen to the faculty all the times while sitting into a class? Are they responding to you for the activities that have been designed specifically for them? The simple answer of this particular statement is no. maybe in a specific class, maybe for a today lecture, it is possible for me to engage 10 or 20 students for that particular activity. So in this particular case, we need to consider diversity available in our class. So maybe for a specific class, it is possible for me to engage 10 or 20 students. In the next session, the rest 10 or 20 students are going to be engaged. If at all, as a teacher, I'm observing that there are 4 or 5 students in my class, whatever teaching method, whatever activity I'm designing for my class student, those group of student or specifically XYZ student is not confirming about that particular activity, he or she is not ready to listen to me. So as a teacher, it is a hint to me that for a specific candidate, I need to take a strict action. So what kind of action is there? Maybe the activities that I am giving in my class are the graded one, where the score of that activity is going to be added up in the final internal evaluation of my student. Maybe for that specific group of student, when I'm developing group or when I'm forming team of my class student, I specifically consider that these 4 or 5 students will become the part of this particular group, or I will assign one candidate to all the group, and to a group leader, I specifically assign an activity and responsibility that for this particular specific student, this much of information need to be ready. I'm not forcing that ignoring child to go through the whole content, but initially, gradually, I need to put accountable to that particular individual that if it is not possible for you to complete the whole activity, at least these 2 statements need to be ready with you. Only then it is possible for me to modify the behavior of that particular individual. If constantly I'm start ignoring that particular candidate of my class, if I'm forcing that candidate to complete the whole activity, but the aptitude of that candidate is not up to the mark, it is not possible for me to engage that student in the process of learning. So maybe I need to differentiate in the content also. I need to specifically assign activity to that particular candidate, and maybe in my class, I specifically call the group of that student and make a group along with me, where I'm sitting with all those candidates and we are deliberating about that activity. So as a teacher, when we said give prompt feedback, we need to identify that what are the students who specifically need corrective action and what will be the strategy to evaluate their performance. When I'm designing target specific activities to my student, I need to communicate expectations to them. Say, for example, in a flipped classroom, or say, for example, in a blended classroom, I have created a number of activities to my student. My students will perform those activities in their own personal time. In a class only, there will be a discussion. So I need to clear to my student that in what manner they need to ready for that particular content, what kind of information need to be handy with them. So in this particular century, when we said information is available with the student, there are 2 different terms that we need to understand. One is the cognitive loading and other is the cognitive flexibility. So do you know what we mean by cognitive loading and cognitive flexibility? So what we mean by cognitive loading and cognitive flexibility? Any candidate from the group? Specifically, the candidate from the universities and institutes who are using technology in their teaching learning activities. Yes, any member from the group? So when we said that we are using technology and we are integrating technology in our teaching learning activities, these are the 2 important terms that we need to evaluate. One is cognitive loading and one is cognitive flexibility. Say, for example, you have assigned some activity to the student in a class and content is already given by all of you. So in that particular case, when the student is performing that activity, maybe an information in abundance is available with that particular student. When I said the XYZ statement is there and you are allowed to use your smartphone to complete this particular statement and submit it to me at the end of the class, my student may face loading, cognitive loading, because on Google, when they put any keyword, maybe there are 25 different websites that are opening, there are 50 different websites they are opening, and students start searching for that information. Students start searching for that particular statement, and it is not possible for the student to complete or extract useful information within the defined time. So when I said I'm integrating technology and I'm giving assignment to my student and allowing them to use technology, I need to give references along with that particular activity to my student. Mean that yes, on internet there are 50 different internet sites from where it is possible for you to extract information, but these are the sites that you need to refer for the completion of this activity or for the completion of this particular assignment. Only then I can say that yes, it is possible for my student to complete this activity on time. Next is the cognitive flexibility. Maybe one student of my class is very active when it comes to select information, extract information, and write information for the completion of a specific activity, but another student, that student required a structured kind of lecture, structured kind of information. For that particular candidate, it is not easy to find a useful information. That student will take more time as compared to the first candidate. So that is the cognitive loading the student is facing right now. So that is why it is being said, whatever teaching strategy we are using for our student, effective teaching means your expectations for that assignment, your expectations for that activity need to be clear to the student first. Only then it is possible for the student to complete those activities on time. Another is the respect diverse talents and different ways of learning. Maybe my one student is very good in creative ability. Another student is very good in analytical ability. So I want to assess their aptitude abilities. After assessing the aptitude ability, I need to design activity for all the students in my class by which it is possible for me, up to some extent, it is possible for me to change their abilities. So I need to consider the diversity that is available in my class. Next thing that we need to understand is learning. As far as learning is concerned, it is not only the memorization of information. Learning means my student need to reflect upon that information also. Say, for example, as a faculty for the subject of communication skill, it is possible for me to prepare my students for job interview while the students are performing certain activities designed by the student for a classroom assessment. So I can simply give assignment to my student to write an email to me where they need to consider me as an organization where they are applying for a job. So my student come to know that how it is possible for me to write a professional email to another organization or to the another personnel. It is possible for me to prepare my student for a public speaking in a class of communication if I'm designing activities in such a manner where my student need to present information in a specific time period. My student need to know that how they are able to frame the content and how they are able to pass that information to the others. What kind of nonverbal behavior need to be there when you are presenting information. So students are not just memorizing the information, students are reflecting upon that information. I come to know in my communication class that there are many of the students who are facing problem in terms of language. Their command on regional language is very high, but as far as the global language, that is English, is concerned, my students are not able to speak in a fluent manner, and my students are not even able to understand that in what way I need to frame a response for a statement. So when I'm designing such kind of activity for my student in a subject, it is an application based of teaching that I'm performing right now. That is an essential requirement of today education system. So my student need not to memorize information only, my student need to reflect upon that information also. I would like to share my personal experience over here. In a presentation for my chemical engineering topic, a faculty of my department said to me that it is not, I'm a student at that stage, it is not compulsory for you to memorize information nowadays. It is not compulsory for you to memorize all kind of equation and formula nowadays. It is compulsory for you to know that yes, the information is available on XYZ resource and how I'm going to apply information. So whatever information is essential, there are number of resources available online. You can extract that information within no time. But in your formal education, if you are not able to know, if you are not able to understand that how you are going to apply information, it means you certainly need training in that particular aspect. So the point of discussion is, it is not the remembering part that we need to focus in our education system again and again. We need to create an activity where my students are able to reflect upon that information, where my students are mindful for that particular activity. So that is the demand of today education system. Another thing that we need to understand is, as far as our primary education system is concerned, we are moving ahead as compared to the higher education system, because at a school level right now, they are working on the three different domains of education, that is cognitive, psychomotor, and affective domain. But in an higher education system, you see your evaluation pattern, you see your question paper that is being set by the faculty, you see the different activities that is performed by all of us at institute level. We are just focusing on remembering, we are just focusing on evaluating our student based on those traditional tests or traditional assignment that is compulsory, made by the policies. So whenever I am designing an internal evaluation parameter for my student at institute level, I need to reflect upon that by the use of a written assignment, what my students are getting out of from this activity. Why I'm giving three different written assignment again and again for every subject to my student. What are the different types of activity where my students need to be engaged? So learning need to be more reflecting for a student rather than the teacher is considering memorization or lower level understanding ability among the student. So as a teacher, we need to make our course plan more effective by considering the situation of the student. So as far as learning at the part of the student is concerned, it is a process of acquiring and integrating through a systemized process of instructions and organized experience, varying forms of knowledge, skill, and understanding that the learner may use or apply in a later situation, and understand the conditions that are different from those instructions. So it may be a problem-based learning, it may be a conceive, develop, implement, and orient kind of approach. At institute level, specifically for a technical student, we need to opt for. When my students are involving with that particular content, when my students are performing certain skill-related activity in that particular subject, it is possible for my student to go through that particular detail. So that is what is required at the part of the faculty, that we need to create a systemized experiences for our student. There must be a structured information available with the student where practice given to the students related to that particular content. Only then it is possible for us to utilize the class time more effectively for our student. Because as per the literature, it is being said, whenever somebody is learning, he or she is an active agent. If he or she is learning, if they are not learning, they become a passive agent. That is why it is being said in a lecture method where we consider all the students are homogeneous and we are just developing verbal explanations for our student, many of the students become passive agent of that learning environment, because their engagement in the process of learning start decreasing as the lecture continue. So maybe in the initial 10 minutes of the lecture, the retention of material is approximately 70%. But as the lecture continue, the retention of the material start decreasing, and it is only 20% in the last 20 minutes. So many of the students are physically present, but mentally they are not in the process of learning. That is why there is a demand of various active learning strategies. So active learning strategies are basically any instructional method. It can also be your lecture method. Active learning doesn't mean to use advanced strategies only. As a faculty, I can also engage my student by the use of lecture method only. But the major thing that I need to consider is there must be meaningful learning activities that need to be planned for the student. So when I said meaningful learning activity means in a traditional lecture method also, if I'm designing certain activities for my student, if I'm creating informal discussions for my student where it is possible for me to interact with them all, I am able to influence my student in the process of learning. It is possible for me to engage the students in the process of learning. So active learning is basically an umbrella term under which there are three different instructional strategies. That is individual active learning strategies, cooperative active learning strategies, and collaborative learning strategy. So that is how it is possible for us to create engaging environment for our student. But if again and again I'm using same teaching methodology or say a lecture method where all information is provided by the faculty, the role of the student is just to listen to the information or pretend that they are listening, they will become a passive agent of that particular environment. But if you are involving students in the process of learning, it is possible for them to go through that content. It is possible for them to process all kind of information. So that is why we are using active learning strategy. Behind every good teacher is an exhausted class. Tell me I forgot, show me I remember, involve me I understand. Fish a man a fish, you have fed him for today. Teach a man to fish and you have fed him for a lifetime. And even the business and industry environment have clearly advocated that in today's education system, there must be a place for teaching students to become team members, to share resources and talents, and to acquire social skills that will help them in the workplace. So that is the demand of today education system. So that is why it is being said as a teacher, we need to understand that what kind of teaching need to be there in my class, what type of learning I'm creating for my student. These are the infrastructure facilities available with me and how I'm going to integrate those facilities for my classroom teaching. So as a teacher, first we need to make decision in such a manner. So dear participants, before I proceed further for the discussions of various cooperative and collaborative learning strategy, if there is any clarification required at your end, your questions are most welcome. Yes, any participant, if you have any question related to the discussion we were able to carry till now.
Yes, madam. Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, sir. May I know your name, sir?
My name is Rajesh, madam. Rajesh Chitam.
Okay.
Regarding active learning,
Yes, sir.
what is the contribution of active learning in a 4 years degree course? That means the percentage of contribution from first year to second year to third year and 4 years course. How the passive learning and active learning will be contributed?
Okay. So when it comes to the use of the different active learning strategies for your student and you want to confirm that whether you are able to create that environment or not. Is it your question, sir?
Yes, madam, exactly.
So when, as a teacher, when we are creating our classroom environment, say maybe at the end of the lecture or maybe in the initial phase of your lecture, when you are asking few statements to your student, and your students are able to reply at the end of the lecture, your students are able to respond to the statement that is being asked by the faculty. It is a clear hint to the faculty that throughout the lecture the students are engaged in the process of learning, so your class is confirmed as an active learning class. Whenever you are assigning any activity to the student when they are in the class and students are interestingly taking part in that particular activity and asking for clarification and doubts from the faculty, it is clear to you that yes, the creation of active learning classroom is successful. So your question is more pertain towards individual active learning classroom. You said for a first year student and for a final year student, when we are talking about active learning classroom, very rightly added by you, sir, when it comes to the use of active learning strategy, we need to consider the level of our student. We need to consider that what kind of past experiences my student already have. We need to consider the maturity level of our student. So when I said a third semester student or when I said a first semester student, for a first semester student, the information is very much new. Maybe that student is listening to that information for the very first time in his or her life. And say, for example, in terms of engineering education, a student is exposed to a technical education started from the third semester onwards. So that particular learner is a matured learner. The past experiences are very few. So that for that learner, I'm not going to create a group-based activity. I'm going to create a team-based activity where the complete task analysis need to be carried out by the faculty and students are following the directions of the faculty. So when I said a numbered head together, when I said think, pair, share. These are the cooperative learning strategy that we need to use for immature learners. But when I said project-based learning, problem-based learning, when I'm dividing my student into group, these strategies are applicable for 7th or say started from the 5th semester onward for my mature learner, because the kind of information, the basic information related to the area of specialization is already there with the student. As a faculty, I consider that social skills are already developed. Students are able to collaborate with each other. Only then it is possible for them to solve problems. Only then it is possible for them to do some sort of a project work. So as a teacher, when I'm creating interaction in my class, I'm interacting with my student and my students are doing meaningful activity. Only then I can say my students are engaged in the process of learning and my students are actively involved in that learning. So is it clear to you, sir?
Yes, ma'am, clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So any another question from your side? Any participant who would like to ask something or want to add something to the session? So thank you very much, all of you. There is no further question from your side. So we'll move to the next discussion of this particular topic. So when we said an active learning classroom, we need to consider that what are the different skills of communication that we are going to use and what are the different elements of an active learning classroom. Started from 11:30, we have already discussed when the students are performing activity and they are mindful for that particular activity, only then we consider that students are engaged actively in the process of learning. As a teacher, sometimes I need to allow to my students to talk. So when I said allow them to talk, that discussion is related to that content matter. So might be you all have observed that students are very happy when it comes to the laboratory classes as compared to their theory session. Because in laboratory classes, when we divide our student into group and students are performing activity within the group, it is possible for them to interact with each other more freely as compared to their theory lectures. So students are more involved in practical classes. Students are able to perform certain activities within the group. So that is why it is being said, sometimes it is compulsory for the faculty to create a discussion in a class where the students are able to interact with each other, where the habit of or the skill of listening can be promoted and developed among student population. There must be some reading activity that need to be given to the student. So rather than giving written assignment for the second time to my class student, I can simply distribute few research article or scientific reports to my class student and give them an activity that on maybe on next Wednesday, you need to read this research article and give a 5 or 7 minute presentation to all of us that what is written in this particular research article. What is the objective of this particular research article? To understand a research article, maybe my student need to refer 2 or 3 research articles additionally. So I am developing the higher order thinking skill of my student. I am not just focusing on remembering and understanding. So when the students are writing something again and again, the content information that is already available with them, students are copy pasting that information and provided it to the faculty. So assignment can be a reading assignment where my student need to understand a content, where my student need to go through that particular content in detail. Maybe my student is not able to understand the whole information that is given in that research article. So as a teacher, I expose my student with that advanced kind of information related to the field. So I influence my student to learn more, to know about the different things. Another example is when we said my student need to give some sort of a writing activity or a written activity or assignment. So maybe for a subject that include theory as well as lab, for that particular class, I'm not giving any written activity or assignment in my theory class, but in my practical class, maybe a simple activity assigned by me that yes, this XYZ activity is solved by this particular process in today lab, but in a next class you all have to identify that for these kind of practical problems what can be the other alternatives that we can opt, or what are the new technologies that are used word around for solving such kind of practical problem. So I am assigning an activity to my student, but the thing is, I'm involving my student with that particular content matter. So as a teacher, when we are planning for our courses, we need to go through the details of that particular content and try to identify that where I'm not spoon feeding information again and again to my student, I make an independent path of learning for all of them, by the use of which it is possible for the student to explore more information. So there are many teaching strategies available with all of us, by the use of which it is possible for me to create an active learning environment. But yes, at a part of the faculty also, we need to have more preparation. We need to have more advanced information related to our subject matter. Only then it is possible for us to create active learning environment. So the different characteristics of active learning are engagement in a different activity. So as a teacher, I need to plan for the different activities first. Only then it is possible for me to create an environment. The students will be more involved than a passive learning. The greater emphasis is based on the exploration of attitudes and values. It is not only the skill part, it is not only the cognitive part where I'm working for my student. I'm also considering a behavior as a dimension, and it will become a part of my evaluation also. Receive immediate feedback from the teacher. When in a class, the students are performing activities in the presence of the teacher, it is possible for the teacher to provide immediate feedback to the students. Teaching is developmental rather than directive. The teacher is not forcing information to the student. The teacher is creating opportunity where the students interact with the content information. So these are some of the things that we need to consider before creating an active learning classroom. And active learning classrooms are based on 2 different assumptions. The first assumption is the different people learn in different way. So my first question to all of you is, try to identify the correct answer out of the 4 options given, that is A, B, C, D, for a given statement on your screen. The time given to all of you is 30 seconds. Participants can reply in a chat box. The statement is, your sister called to say she is having twins. Which of the following is more likely? Assume she is not having identical twins. Options are twin boys, twin girls, one boy and one girl, all are equally likely. So the time is over. I look forward for the responses. Many of the participants said D, few said C, B. Thank you very much for your responses. So the assumption was every individual tried to identify the answer from his or her own experiences and from his or her own knowledge pool. So while identifying the answer of this particular statement, how many of you actually are able to know that this particular statement is from the topic of probability in a subject of mathematics? And the right answer for this particular statement is one boy and one girl. On the slide itself, it is clearly written a misconception question, and how misconception is being created by providing an image. So when we said different people learn in a different way, maybe some of you are visual learners, you are more attracted with that particular image. Some of you over the year, your learning pattern or your learning style and your specialization is formed. So we are trying to identify the answer from a given knowledge pool. It is not that we do not know the subject of mathematics or the topic of probability, but in an initial stage when information is exposed to all of us, we try to identify answer from our given from our already developed knowledge pool. So the right answer of this particular statement is C. This is same in case of our students also. When they are exposed with the new information, every individual has a different style of learning. Some of your class students demand notes, some of your class students demand lectures, some of your class students do not require faculty, they do not require notes, they are confident enough that they are able to collect information from the authentic resources and they are able to reproduce that information also. So every individual has a different style of learning. Keeping this in view, the classes must be full of variety. If there is variety in your classes, you are not engaging your students by using same method again and again. It is possible for you to fulfill the expectations of your stakeholders. The second major assumption is learning by nature is an active endeavor. So my next question to all of you is it possible for you to drive a car just by reading a manual? Yes. Is it possible for you to drive a car or to operate a machine in laboratory just by reading a manual? We all need demonstration. Corda Dilip Kumar sir said, yes, it is possible for me to drive a car or operate a machine just by reading a manual. Maybe, sir, with experience. Yes, sir.
I'm talking about the machine. Like
Yes.
whenever we purchase a machine, machine, they provide us a guide, user guide.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir, for your reply. That is what I'm trying to say. As an experienced learner, it is possible for us to go through that particular manual and operate a machine. But in a second instant, when I said, is it possible for us to drive a car just by reading a manual? I think we all need practice for driving. Maybe it is possible for you to drive a car in your own city, but when you go to another country or when you come to another city, sometimes it is difficult for us to cope up with that pressure of the traffic or the rules. So we need experience for such activity. When the activity is new for us, we need demonstration, we need practice, we need such kind of experiences by the use of which we can say that yes, it is possible for me to operate a machine by reading a manual. It is possible for me to drive a car after practicing it. So this is possible for us, but yes, it requires an active participation. Same for the student population also. Whenever we expose them with a new information, whenever we expose them for the use of any new thing, we need to consider that my student also requires some time for process that information. So whenever I'm asking question to my student in a class, I need to consider that my students are able to understand only if I provide activities, only if I give opportunity to my students to go through that information. So that is an essential requirement need to be fulfilled by all of us if we want to engage our students in the process of learning. As per the literature also, it is said that if the teacher is using lecture method again and again, the retention of the material is only 5%. If the teacher is providing reading activities to the student, in that particular case, the retention of the material is 10%. By the use of different audio-visual aid, the retention of the material is approximately 20%. By the use of demonstration method, 30%, group discussion 50%, practice by doing 75%, and teacher is teaching other student. In that, but student is teaching other student or the immediate use of that particular content, the retention of the material is approximately 90%. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to use a lecture method. I'm going to use a lecture method when the information is very much new to my student. For that new information, I need direct instructions to pass to my student. So I certainly require lecture method when there is a new information I'm trying to provide to my student. I need to give reading activity to my student as and when essential for them. I will also integrate YouTube videos in my lecture to have attention of all the visual learners who are sitting in my class. In my laboratory classes, I will use demonstration method because by the use of this method only, my students are able to know the name of that equipment, the kind of resources they are going to utilize, how they are going to use that resource, and how to optimally utilize the space, time, and how it is possible for them to make best utilization of the available time. I am going to use group discussion for the development of different leadership ability and other soft skills among my students. But yes, for a classroom teaching, specifically for a technical subject, I am not going to use a group discussion method. There is another kind of discussion specifically for a technical subject that is known as fishbowl method of discussion. So fishbowl method of discussion is basically a collaborative learning strategy where group of students can discuss about that content matter. If as a teacher I'm saying I'm using a group discussion method for teaching specifically a technical subject, it's a misconception. You cannot use group discussion for the coverage of your syllabus. Practice by doing in a laboratory class or in a theory class. When the class is designed on a project-based activity, it is possible for me to engage my student. It is possible for me to create a mechanism of self-feedback in my class. It is possible for me to use think, pair, share, jigsaw method, numbered head together, futuring and visioning. There are many techniques available with us that we can use to consider a peer kind of teaching, to create a peer kind of environment at our institute level. So, dear members, it is not about the use of single technology or use of multiple teaching methods for your class student. Based on the kind of your activity specification you have designed for your student, you are going to select an appropriate teaching strategy. While sitting at NITR Chandigarh, I cannot recommend to you that what teaching strategy as per your subject is most suitable for you. As a teacher, you need to decide that for a specific subject for my student, which teaching method is more applicable. It is possible for me to create a flipped kind of learning environment for my PhD coursework candidate. But if I said the subject of research methodology is being offered to my master's level student and I'm going to engage all the classes by the use of flipped methodology, no, it is not going to work. Because maturity level of student is different, I need to use variety of teaching approaches for my students. So that need to be considered by the faculty that what teaching method is more appropriate for you as per your subject selection. So based on the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy, we need to consider. So I'll simply go by the list of those particular technologies. So these are the different teaching strategies that we need to adopt. So these are the few that I have enlisted. There are many more. So say for example, if you want to develop the remembering and understanding level of the student, there can be 1 minute paper. 1 minute paper means at the end of the lecture or for a subject content, the teacher can simply ask the student to write something about that particular content. Maybe a statement is given by the faculty, or maybe the faculty consider that the student will highlight all kind of information in that sheet of paper. So 1 minute paper, note taking. If advanced information is given to the student, information is not readily available with them. In that particular case, I can direct my student to either note down that information or make a record of that information also. Muddiest point. Nowadays, I have observed that many of the faculty members are not comfortable when the students are recording the information, maybe by using their smartphone. Faculty members are not comfortable when the student is not making a drawing or a derivation on a notebook, but student is able to collect that information just by clicking the picture. So we need to consider that for today tech savvy generation, when they are creating their notes, they may use pen and paper, they may use the recorded tools also. So as a faculty, I need to accept that kind of culture also. My purpose is my student is able to understand. My purpose is my student must have this information. How the student is collecting information, let them do whatever they want in terms of collection of that information. So I need to allow to my student how they are going to collect, how they are going to take notes for that particular class. So we need to be flexible enough, because the mindset of today population is somewhat different. So rather when the student is writing information, his or her writing is going to be improved. He or she is able to perform many of the things by the use of that writing activity. But if the student is not willing to do it regularly, I can simply assign activity where my students will write, say 1 minute paper, 1 page lecture summarization, where the students are not collecting my information, but they need to process information and then they write information. So as a teacher, I can give these kind of writing activities to my student when they are in a class. It can be image analysis, it can be a concept map, it can be open-ended question, or any kind of graphical abstractions can also be used by the teacher to develop remembering and understanding. Application, think, pair, share, say simulation, project-based learning, numbered head together, visioning and futuring. Analysis, again think, pair, share. So it totally depended upon the type of the question that is being framed by the faculty. So think, pair, share can be related to application part also. It can also be used by the faculty for analysis of information. Evaluation, there are certain strategies like case study, project, simulation, creation, such. For a technical student specifically, it is a project-based learning. So there are mainly the cooperative and collaborative learning techniques and individual technique. To differentiate between cooperative and collaborative learning, if you go for a literature of corporate various teaching strategies that are available as think, pair, share, or jigsaw method, or numbered head together, that is commonly known to the faculty population. But there are many other good strategies also available with all of us that we need to explore for our classroom teaching. As far as the difference between cooperative and collaborative learning strategies are concerned, we need to consider that cooperative learning strategies are basically for immature learners, whereas collaborative learning are for matured learners. For your first year and for your second year student, you can simply go by the cooperative learning. Onwards, you can go for a collaborative learning. In a cooperative learning, we consider that the essential social skills are not yet developed among student population. They are not able to work effectively in a group. That is why I will have a group of 3 or 4 students, and I will define the activity for my student. Their role and responsibilities are defined by me as a faculty, and I will be there with all of them when they are performing that activity. I observe them, I will listen to them, and if necessary, if I need to provide corrective feedback to that group, I will provide all kind of corrective feedback to my student. And it is compulsory for my student to perform that activity while sitting in a class and then submit me that activity. That activity is a graded activity or a non-graded activity, that is up to the faculty. As far as my classroom teaching is concerned, when I'm giving any activity to my students in a class, maybe it's only a 2-mark activity or a 5-mark activity, but that activity is a graded activity, because as per my opinion, and the activity is graded, the sincerity and effort at the part of student is increased manifold. But if we said it is just for a practice, many of the students are not taking it seriously. So cooperative learning, we consider that we try to develop social skills among our student, and it's a activity where the faculty is always there to guide the student to improve the quality activity. Whereas in collaborative learning, we consider the social skills are already developed. It is possible for this group of students to work together. If there is any conflict within the group, they are able to manage all kind of issues as and when desired by the student, and as and when required by the student. They can interact with the faculty, and faculty will provide them an helping hand or all kind of corrective measures. But since collaborative activity where students are working independently, maximum time need to be given to the students for such kind of a performance. And once the students are able to prepare for that particular activity after so many drafts, students will submit that activity to the instructor for the evaluation purposes. So this is the major difference between cooperative and collaborative learning strategy. To name a few, collaborative learning techniques are fishbowl discussion, stump your partner, case study, problem-based learning, and even a blackboard share. Numbered head together, visioning and futuring, jigsaw, concept map, think, pair, share are the cooperative strategies. Individual learning strategies are, say for example, in a class, if you ask your student to write an example of something that you have learned, what do you do next? 1-minute paper. The muddiest point means the most complex point of today lecture. It can be voting when you're using quiz or polls for the student. That can also an individual activity. 1-page lecture summarization, paraphrasing in various subjects, list pros and cons. And if for a project work or for any activity, the teacher asks the students to maintain a daily or a weekly journal. So these kind of journal help the student also to know the level of performance that is improved gradually over the time. So these are few active learning techniques available with the student. So when it comes to create and verifying that whether you are able to create an active learning classroom or not, the teacher need to know the past experiences of the student. So basic level of understanding need to be assessed by the teacher first. Based on their previous experiences, previous knowledge, the teacher will define the different learning outcomes for the session, and the teacher will decide that how it is possible for the student to achieve those learning outcomes. In inquiry and expedition, when the teacher is designing certain activities to the student, the teacher need to inquire in a classroom situation that whether it is possible for them to achieve all those learning outcomes. Once the activity is designed and floated among the student, the teacher will continuously assess the performance of the student. And ultimately, when the students are able to perform those activities, the teacher will evaluate the learning at the part of the student. So this is how it is possible for us to verify that whether I am able to create that active learning classroom by the use of various teaching strategies or not. So dear members, this is all from my side. If there is any question, you are most welcome to ask. So these are some of the references that I have used to prepare this PowerPoint presentation. So thank you very much, one and all. If there is any question from your side, you are most welcome to ask. Thank you very much, Priyanka ma'am. One candidate asked, ma'am, you said you evaluate based on the behavior also. Yes, ma'am. As far as today classroom teaching is concerned, behavior is considered as an important dimension to evaluate, since we know that maybe the student is very good as far as the IQ ability is concerned, but as far as the emotional quotient of the student is concerned, it is continuously decreasing day by day. So to modify the behavior of the learner, we need to consider that behavioral dimension also need to be the part of your evaluation strategy. But the elaborated detail will be discussed with all of you on Thursday in the session of rubric. In that session, I will provide you an overview that how it is possible for a teacher to modify the behavior when the behavioral dimension is become the part of evaluation. So there is no question available with me in a chat box. So I thank you all of you for your patience listening. So after lunch, the class will be engaged by Engineer Gaurav Kumar sir. There is a slight change in a timetable due to the busy schedule of Dr. KG Srinivasa. So after lunch, the session will be engaged by Engineer Gaurav Kumar sir. So thank you very much for your patience listening. So another question is, ma'am, how can you motivate weak student? How can, ma'am, it is not motivation is I think if you said that by giving lecture or by influencing the student it is possible for us to motivate our student, as per my opinion practically it is not possible. As a teacher we need to make a plan, because since when I said I am motivating my student, why my student come to the class? My student come to my class either to complete their attendance or to have good marks. So these are the two motivational forces for my student to be the part of my class. If I said I'm preaching them, I'm giving them talks on motivation and they become motivated, that is practically not possible. So when you design activity for your class student where they know that my teacher is going to evaluate me on this basis, and this is only opportunity provided to me for having good score or good internal assessment from this particular faculty, only then it is possible for me to engage them in the process of learning. So when I'm preaching them, when I'm giving them some of the examples, maybe for 10 to 15 minutes, they are mindful for those kind of thoughts. But eventually, when they are in a group, they again go for the same kind of activity. So when you are performing a task analysis for your student, you needed consider that to motivate your student there must be some of the graded activity that need to be given to the student. That is why they come to your classes. How can we select collaborative learning? Vandana ma'am, as I earlier told you in this particular session, teaching is the decision that need to be developed by the teacher only based on the kind of resources or based on the level of the students you have at your institute level. So based on what kind of facilities are available with you, you can select any of the collaborative strategy that is available. So say if it is a technical subject, you can simply assign a mini project or a major project to your student. You can simply involve them in a group kind of discussion. You can involve them in a seminar method. You can even design a case study for your class student and ask them to analyze while sitting into a group. So it is totally dependent upon the kind of facilities you have and what kind of students you have at your institute level. How it is possible to evaluate based on the behavior in a virtual environment. Ma'am, what kind of virtual environment you are talking right now? Virtual environment means the laboratory kind of practices that we are offering to our student, or in a theory kind of environment where you are teaching to your student by the use of online tools. What you mean by virtual environment basically? In a theory kind of environment, when you, ma'am, my last class also, I recommend to suggest to all of you that whenever we are integrating technology in our teaching learning activity, right now, the way I am engaging, it is only a one-way communication that is happening. That kind of lecture is not required for a student population because they will not engage in the process of learning. It is not possible for me to evaluate their behavior. If this particular session I'm engaging for my student, this session must be full of activities where my students are exposed with the information based on that activity only. So when my students are performing activity while sitting into the class and I provide flexibility to my student to unmute their mic or switch on their cameras, it is possible for me to know that whether they are on that particular platform or not. So it is how, as a teacher, we need to think upon that what are the different activities I'm going to design for my student for my today class. As far as your traditional classes are concerned, it is very easy for the teacher to engage theory class. But as far as online classes are concerned, the teacher need to have a preparation. Maybe teacher need to spend 5 to 6 hours to prepare a single class. Only then it is possible for me to engage my student, to evaluate my student. And it is totally dependent upon the kind of evaluation tool you are using. If you consider the behavior of the student, then the student behavior can be easily evaluated. So thank you very much, one and all. So on Thursday in the second session rubric, I will be with all of you again. So thank you very much, one and all. We'll call it off as far as these 2 sessions are concerned. So we will meet again on this particular platform at 2:25 sharp. So thank you very much, one and all. So thank you.